Movie friends, welcome back to the channel. Doing another Dead Meat video. This one is going to be for his ranking of the Leprechaun movies. Now, I decided to rank them, obviously, again. Every time he does one of these, I'm going to rank mine, and then we'll compare them as we go along. So I'm going to tell you mine really quick, and then we'll go to see what his are and see how different they are, because his lists so far have been extremely far different than mine. I'm respectful. I'm very respectful. So at last place, I have Leprechaun Back to the Hood. Yeah, it has Warwick Davis in it, unlike my next one, but it's the cringiest of them all. Leprechaun Origins, which almost has nothing to do with Leprechaun at all. It's just a completely different type of movie. Then you have Leprechaun in the Hood, which is the first in the Hood movie, which is also very cringy. That's why it's on the bottom of the barrel. We got number 5, which is Leprechaun 4 in Space, which, you know, is a cheesy-ass, stupid time, but I kind of enjoy it. 4 is Leprechaun 3, which is in Las Vegas, kind of fun. I enjoy some of it. The top 3 though are the ones I actually really like of the Leprechaun franchise, which is Leprechaun Returns for number 3, Leprechaun 2 for number 2, and the original Leprechaun for number 1. And the original Leprechaun is one of my biggest guilty pleasures of all time. I'm very much aware it's not a great movie. None of these movies are really great at all, but it's a lot of fun. Having said that, let's go ahead and see what his ranking is for all these movies. It's gonna be something. So on the count of 3, we are going to go ahead and watch his Leprechaun ranking. So 3, 2, 1. Now.
What do you think?
I think we're dead meat.
Real dead meat.
Go ahead and laugh, you guys. If I ever find little bastards that did this, they're dead meat.
Welcome to Dead Meat, the channel that makes horror movies less scary because of background music and corny jokes. I'm that corny jokester, James A. Janice, and today I'll be ranking all 8 movies in the Leprechaun franchise, from worst to best, in my personal opinion, of course. I covered the Leprechaun franchise 3 years ago, before the kill count was even a full 1 year old. Back then,
if I had
had
to guess,
some
I'm probably
unkind
going to
words for
assume
the series,
Leprechaun
with particular
Origins is probably his last place.
For one little shit. The Leprechaun himself fucking sucks. He's mean and nasty and hardly ever actually funny. I've changed a lot these past 3 years, and not just the speed at which I talk.
Funny, no.
Seriously, past James, was someone chasing your words?
I love the
with a
Leprechaun
machete?
stuff you had back
then
there.
I had a more binary view of judging films as good or bad. Nowadays, I appreciate movies in a multitude of ways, including the often attempted but rarely successful type where one is so bad it's good. I hate it when movies try too hard to purposefully be so bad they're good. Looking at you, Sharknado. But most Leprechaun movies are effortlessly bad. They're exquisitely bad. They are, in fact, so bad they're good. And even the Leprechaun himself knows it.
I'm so bad, I'm good.
God help me, I love that little shit. That's
rap.
why, in order
Leprechaun
to ensure
3,
an accurate personal ranking, I actually rewatched all 8 movies to write and make this video. My opinions on them from 3 years ago were simply too out of date. It was definitely the right choice. My rankings changed drastically from what they would have been back then.
I'm curious.
Always gotta be willing to update your beliefs and preferences, you know? I'll be honest though, between my conflicting past feelings towards each movie and the extreme variance in their strengths and weaknesses, this may have been the most difficult franchise ranking I've ever had to do. But I did it.
When I ranked it, it wasn't easy.
Without further ado, here are my personal rankings of the Leprechaun movies from worst to best.
There we go. I'm gonna say Leprechaun Origins or Back to the Hood is his least place. His last place.
My least favorite Leprechaun movie is the 2014 reboot, Leprechaun Origins.
Yep.
I'm not striking any new ground here. This is probably everyone's least favorite Lep. Mostly because, look at that thing. It's not a fucking leprechaun.
No,
as with most movies,
it's not.
though, you can still find some good things to point out and appreciate. The main cast playing the college kids does well considering the material, while Gary Chalk and Teach Grant give some surprisingly passionate performances as a conflicted father and son. The plot of them sacrificing sacrificing tourists to keep their village safe from the leprechaun is interesting and I'm into it. But after some initial Act 1 promise, the movie falls apart and becomes an underexposed, beat-by-beat snooze fest.
If the leprechaun
I guess we
was
shouldn't
actually
be
a leprechaun,
surprised
it would
about
have been
a
a lot more
storyline
fun.
with a promising start that ends up boring and predictable. This was made by WWE Studios after all. And the lazy story isn't even the worst part.
I didn't even know that.
Nothing, not the performances, nor the halfway decent production value, ooh, drone shots, can counteract the film's most egregious offense, this shitty so-called leprechaun. For all his faults, OG Leppy Boy is an S-tier monster makeup design. Gabe Bartalos created a hideous creature that perfectly suited Warwick Davis's gleeful malice.
Yeah.
He felt real. He had character.
Works.
He was great. In contrast, here's this stupid fucking thing. It's in the shadows or out of focus.
It's so fake
almost
looking.
all of the time it's on screen. And when we do see it, it just crawls around in quickly cut close-ups, growling like a pissed off zoo animal.
It's so stupid.
It makes no sense to advertise Dylan Postel in the role because it might as well been a puppet being controlled just off screen. And can you get any lazier than first-person attacks with a Predator filter thrown over the footage? This would be awful in any monster movie. But the fact that they called this a leprechaun is a downright insult to the franchise's greatest asset.
I agree.
Its iconic villain.
I agree.
No matter how good some of the kills
because of those
are, or how many tears
things,
teach Grant
the performances,
this movie is an abject
concept
failure.
was interesting.
The original Lep movies tried to be fantasy slasher comedies, and they succeed at each of those things to varying degrees.
Next time, I'll take the elevator.
This movie tries to be a serious creature feature, and fails because its creature is barely even featured. It sucks, and it is easily my last place.
It looks like a bird creature, not a leprechaun.
Number 7.
It's just stupid.
Just above the bottom of the barrel is Leprechaun II from 1994.
Interesting.
This movie is a huge step up from Origins, meaning I don't outright hate it, at least
Back
not
to the
anymore.
Hood movies are
I'm
just
still not a
god-awful.
big fan, but I can appreciate it as a successful transition for the series. While the original Leprechaun was far from serious, the sequel pointedly heightened the comedy and cartoonishness, which I think was the right move for the franchise. It also plays into the fantasy element more and gives our Leppy boy some backstory, even though it wouldn't stay consistent throughout the series. Which reminds me,
like
there's a theory that most of the leprechauns are different individuals from film to film. I actually really like that theory. It makes a lot of sense. Still, I have some lingering annoyances with this movie, mostly in the form of its characters. Sandy Barron does a fantastic job playing Drunkle Morty, with a lot of comedic flourishes and lines I originally overlooked.
I should have returned this book to the library 5 years ago.
I like
him. But the character is still kind of obnoxious to watch. A complaint that goes double for the unappreciative snob Bridget. Some people can't afford to let their small businesses fail, Bridget. They can't just run around riding go-karts all day. Cody's not that much more interesting than his love interest.
No characters in this are memorable besides Warwick Davis.
Main couple is one that plagues the entire first half of the franchise. There are enjoyable performances by talented character actors in bit parts, though I'm still not sure why the hell Tony Cox was acting so weird. But the problem is that they're not in most of the movie. Bridget and Cody are. I know, joke's on me. Number 6.
I can't really argue.
At number 6, I have the 1993 original, Leprechaun, aka the one with Jennifer Aniston. I know it should get props for being the first one, but in all honesty,
I'm kind of blown away by that.
Pretty boring movie. I mean, no offense to all the North Dakotans in the house, but I just don't think the Peace Garden State is the best setting for a movie about a magical murder.
That is definitely a big surprise.
To the character's potential and limiting in its locale. I don't want to stare at a farmhouse for 90 minutes. The movie has a slightly darker tone.
I liked how simple it was,
and although
to be honest.
I'm glad the series quickly became more
That's probably why I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th.
That tries to be scary and funny. Warwick Davis can balance those tones perfectly in his performance, and this first film is a good showcase of how sinister and sneering he can be, tricking people with his magic and laughing while he murders. Sure, he's also sometimes a punching bag in green striped socks, but without his moments of pure evil here, the character wouldn't be half as successful. As far as the other characters go, I love Alex and Ozzy, they're a sweet pair of friends, but this first movie begins the trend of having unlikable leads. Tori and Nate aren't as bland as some of the main characters that would follow, but I can't stand their endless back and forth basic-ass gender warfare.
Did I misplace my 1950s calendar here? Girls?
Listen, bud.
Okay, this is the 90s. Women are treated equal.
Also, her dad just fucking disappears from the movie. He goes to the hospital.
You know, her
halfway
dad
through
reminds
and
me
never
of
comes back. That's
Lee
shitty
from
writing.
Drum
The
Dums.
original Leprechaun introduced an
Like an older
amazing
version?
monster and did a good job establishing a bass tone to build off of. Other than that, it was a lackluster execution, and we're lucky the sequel's course corrected, or else we wouldn't have all this little shit to wade through. Number 5.
It's still my number 1.
Just on the wrong side of halfway through the list is the 6th film from 2003, Leprechaun Back to the Hood. I'm a big fan of the
It's
first
bad,
one,
and I can
but
understand
its
it being a guilty
sequel is
pleasure
the
good.
Leprechaun movie I feel most meh about. I don't dislike it at all, but it's also not very memorable. It tries to have serious characters and moral dilemmas.
The fact that
just
it's
like
not
the
as
first in the
memorable
Hood, but
means
between the
it's
cheesy
towards my
acting
end,
and the sappy
like,
score,
the
it
least.
sometimes comes off as more of an after-school special.
When's it gonna get better for us, Sam? Why our lives gotta be like this?
This might be the only Leprechaun movie that has moments that are unintentionally laughably bad.
You've been making a lot of moves on the street in the past couple of days, Rory.
Plus, those scene transitions. Like a page peel? For real? Did you just get Windows Movie Maker or something? I like the animated intro with the kind of Lord of the Rings style voice narration.
That was cool.
And I really dig Lep's new look that's more gothic and darker in color. But he's also absent
I like
for a lot
the
of the
original
first act.
goofy
This
looking
might be the
version.
Leprechaun movie with the least amount of Leppy Boy. You know, not counting
I like
the
it,
bullshit
don't get me wrong.
that is Leprechaun Origins. Lep does have some memorable scenes when he finally shows up, but he too often feels like a last-minute addition to this movie's sappy story. And what is with those gold soul bubbles or whatever? Make more sense, movie! It's a mediocre end to Warwick Davis's run as the character, but at least it's far from being the franchise's low point. Number
Unfortunately,
4.
it is my
At
low
number
point.
4, I have Leprechaun 4.
In
This might be unexpected for those of you who remember
I'm
the
very
kill
surprised.
counts.
I'm not gonna lie.
I
I'm
hated
just
this movie.
blown away.
Despised it.
Leprechaun
3
III
years
must be his
ago,
number
it
1.
would have been last
Very
on my
interesting.
list. Hell, I still hated it when I covered Lep Returns 2 years ago in 2019. Except Leprechaun 4 in space,
Or Leprechaun
which can
Returns is
still
his number
fuck off
1.
forever. But now
I
when
liked
watch
Leprechaun
Leprechaun
Returns
in
a
space,
lot.
I wonder why my hatred burns so bright. Yes, it's a bad movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's an Aliens ripoff. And yes, they never once say the word leprechaun, which is pretty fucking weird for a movie called Leprechaun. But Leprechaun in Space is a sort of masterpiece of trash. Not nearly as boring
It's
as
fun,
I made
man.
it out to
It's a
be
fun
in the kill
time. I'm
count.
not gonna lie, it's
so
a f- I'm
often
actually
you'll
in the
get
mood to watch it
bizarrely
now.
bad movie that's only interesting for a little bit before it coasts to a lackluster ending. Not
Yeah.
Lep 4. Its least wild shit happens in the beginning when Darth Leppy Boy breaks out a Lep saber. The what the
Fuck
fuck
yeah.
moments keep coming and coming, and by the time you get to the German Dalek, who becomes a scorpion Spider-Man, you'll have forgotten
Those
all
are
about the
pretty
comparatively
fun
normal
effects.
things like a flattened pancake head and a space princess who flashes her boobs as a threat. By this film, the franchise knew it was ridiculous and leaned into its B-movie status with pride. There's plenty to criticize, and I think I latched onto them my first time through. The main characters are probably the most bland of the franchise. The
Yeah.
ultimate iteration of the series'
No characters are
penchant
memorable.
for generically attractive leads. Their interactions are more awkward than that drunk space marine dancing. The directing is lazy and lacks
Yeah.
any interesting
I agree.
camera angles or style, and the sets and kills
It's a fun
suffer
popcorn flick,
greatly
though.
from
You know,
the
you never take it
exceedingly
seriously.
low
But you
budget.
never
Although
take any of
props
these
for
films
a kill
seriously,
so
to be honest.
memorable, it didn't need a lot of money behind it. Oh, Lep coming out of a pee hole. I never. All this movie's
Oh, that was the
shortcomings
thing,
are
wasn't it?
mostly excusable though, thanks to its endless parade of weird shit from
Oh, yeah.
start to
Big
finish.
is good.
It didn't have the budget to properly implement its ideas, but that never stops Lep 4 from trying to do more and more. And that's kind of beautiful, man.
Oh,
Number
that
3.
effect was horrible.
My top 3 rankings
Horrible.
were very difficult to order, and since they're all such different movies, they're close to a 3-way
Leprechaun,
tie for my favorite. For the
to the
sake
Hood.
of this video, though,
In
I'll
the
put
Hood,
them
in
in
the Hood.
order and say the bronze place goes to Leprechaun Returns from
Wow.
2018. The latest Leprechaun movie ignored all the other sequels and reboots, and instead made its story a direct continuation
Kinda like
of
Halloween
the first
2018.
films. Normally, like with Halloween, that'd be a bigger deal. But continuity was never a priority priority for this franchise, so it's fine that this one renders the space one non-canonical.
I love
Leprechaun canon. It doesn't matter. I didn't have high hopes for a modern-day movie made by sci-fi, but
the
Leprechaun
Easter eggs
was
from
a pleasant
the original
surprise, in large part due to its tone. It's a bit more dark and scary.
That guy did a good job,
similar
too,
to the
playing
first
Leprechaun.
film, even though it's got some of the funniest moments out of any Leprechaun movie.
No, Ghost Ozzy, I can't do that.
It strikes a similar balance of horror and comedy when it comes to the
Ozzy's death
kills,
was
which are the
heartbreaking. I'm not gonna
bloodiest
lie.
of the
I felt so bad.
franchise, but still managed to include some humor. That's why this movie didn't get a dull machete. I liked all the kills too much. This version of the Leprechaun
good gore,
is played
dude.
by Lyndon Porco,
Lyndon
a
Porco did a
phenomenal
good job.
successor to Warwick Davis's Leppy Boy. He nails the specific quality that makes Leprechaun so great. His ability to be silly, almost friendly at certain points in time, only to quickly turn around and be a sadistic mofo the next minute. Unfortunately, Porco's speech sounds inhibited by the prosthetics.
I'm looking for something, and if you tell me where it is, I won't rip you to shreds.
But I'd love for them to iron out the makeup kinks and bring him back for another film. He's great. Aside from the two forgettable dudes,
Sorry,
the other
I just wouldn't.
characters are animated and lively, and leading lady Taylor Spritling gives a seriously hilarious performance. Her scenes with a returning Mark Holton as Ozzy
I loved Mark
are
Holton coming
especially
back.
full of great comedic beats.
Are you Irish?
No,
He keeps
Fan of the culture?
not at all.
four-leaf clover around so
There are
he can
stupid
protect
moments
himself from
here and
leprechauns.
there that expose
Very
the seams of the
superstitious.
screenwriting, try to ignore how often the characters separate for no reason. But Leprechaun Returns successfully updates the franchise for the modern age. I sincerely hope to have more. Number 2.
It's kind of neat to hear that, you know.
At number 2, I have many people's number 1, Leprechaun 3 from 1995. Even if it's not my particular favorite right now, Leprechaun 3 is the
Leprechaun
best
3 is
and
good.
purest
It's a good
version
time.
of a Leprechaun movie. Its setting of Las Vegas is perfect for the greedy little shit. And 3 movies in, the
You're right.
character had been perfected by both
It's
Warwick
shocking to know
Davis
that he
with
has
his
Leprechaun in the
performance
hood at
and
number
Gabe
1 now.
Bartalos with his makeup. Though it had a real low budget, being the first Leprechaun movie with a direct-to-video release, that never stops it from being fun. And everyone on screen seems to
I
be
think
in
the
on
limited
joke.
budget might have helped it.
I especially love the almost definitely gay gangsters, Art and Tony, and of course, the franchise's greatest human villains, Fazio and Loretta. Plus,
So intentionally
the kills
bad, yeah,
are
I love
the
it.
pinnacle of Lep's creative bloodshed. Exploding boobs? Murderous sex robots? We're a far cry from breaking a cop's neck in the woods. Just like
I get
Leprechaun
it.
in space,
I get it.
there's
They go
a
nuts.
lot going on in this movie. And although it may not be as outrageous as burlesque dancing android sergeants, I think it's telling that the main character turning into a leprechaun is only the 5th or 6th most memorable thing from the movie. My complaints are few and minor. I don't love that Lep's locked in a pawn shop for Act 1. The leads are once again pretty boring, and there are way too many blurry shots. But god damn it, the leprechaun is running around Fremont Street, posing with the king and throwing dice at a craps table. This movie's fun and games are the most fun of the franchise. So even though it's not a perfect movie, it's still close to a perfect Leprechaun movie.
I get it.
Number
I
1.
do. But I don't.
But sitting at the top of this gold mound is Leprechaun in the Hood from 2000. Like all Leprechaun movies, this one
I gotta
has
go
its
back and
strengths
rewatch it.
weaknesses, but it wins the top spot mainly because of one thing: its characters and acting, which are hands down the best out of any Leprechaun movie. Leprechaun in the Hood might be the most famous title of the franchise, and a lot of people make fun of it because, to be fair, it sounds ridiculous.
That's right. It was from
But
that movie.
Postmaster P, Stray Bullet, and Butch are some of the few human characters who are as interesting to watch as the Leprechaun himself. They're genuine dudes who share a goal and differ in how they want to pursue it, but they don't let that stop them from being close and even saying that they love each other.
I love you, man. Love you, man.
That unironic depiction of healthy masculinity is dope to see in a movie made in 2000. And because of how real they are to each other,
I like
you
he has
buy
his
in
reasons
and
to
care
why
about them more than just how Lep will kill them. Speaking of which, there is no death in the franchise more emotionally impactful than Stray Bullets. Like, it actually made me feel things. And yet the film's still able to have a lot of goofy fun and not come off as saccharine like when Lep went back to the Hood. It's a difficult balancing act to achieve, but thanks to its talented cast, Lep in the Hood succeeds. Of course, even though it's my favorite, I've gotta fess up to its weaknesses. It's chock full of stereotypes.
Now we're moving on up to the east side.
has a couple of characters who are insensitively portrayed, and dear God, I don't think a movie could look lower budget if it tried. Those Photoshop effects to show the Lep's transformation are bad enough, but when you literally see the top of the set they're filming in, that's real bad, man. Structurally, it could use a little more connective tissue.
To me, it's not even close to my number one.
Randomly jumps from scene to scene.
I get it.
And there are too many lengthy performances of middling rap songs that aren't anything to write to Spotify about. But man, I just don't care. Leprechaun smokes weed in a bathroom with iced tea. That's worth 1,000 film set ceilings to me. And T's not just there in a cameo, like Coolio. He puts in the work and delivers some damn fine acting here. The scene in his office, where he discusses a potential deal with the guys, could have just as easily come from a well-regarded network drama. Even as I finish this video, I'm not 100% certain about the order of my top 3 picks. All of them are great and bad in totally different ways. But for now, I'll say that my favorite is the one that has the best characters, the one that makes me feel the most, the one that sticks with me long after the credits. And that, no doubt, is Leprechaun in the Hood. Hope my wishy-washy rankings make sense to you. If not, maybe in 3 years, I'll reevaluate again. I won't. I don't want to have to watch these fucking movies again. I'll try to do more franchise ranking videos.
Yeah, you said you liked them.
But until next time, I'm James A. Janice. This has been a Dead Meat production.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this ranking video for the Leprechaun franchise.
Okay,
I always love doing the set deck for Leprechaun videos, especially now that I have this awesome Leprechaun figure.
I know.
It came from @HorrorHandmade on Instagram. Check them out if you like it.
Yeah,
it is beautiful,
I think
handcrafted work.
if they even still make them.
I also bought a Valak from him that I don't know where it went since the move. Thanks everyone. Be good people.
I have to look into that. Okay. Clearly, our lists are fucking way different. He had Leprechaun 1 towards the bottom of the barrel, which blew my mind. Leprechaun 2 was at the bottom of the barrel, which blew my mind. He had Leprechaun in the Hood at number 1. Obviously, our lists are not nearly anywhere close, but I still respect his. I respect his list. He gave good reasons, obviously why, and you don't have to have reasons to like a movie more than the other movies. Film is subjective, so no matter what, you're never gonna have the same lists, or most of the time you never have the same lists. But I was just blown away to see how different they were. And I shouldn't be blown away anymore because our lists have been quite different every time I watch and I compare. I mean, as you can see, my list is like right above me, and it's like, wow, I was way off. I mean, Leprechaun Origins, I had a feeling was probably gonna be as end, and it's pretty close to mine too. So, but. Guys, let me know down below what you guys think of that. What is your ranking for the Leprechaun movies? I'm really curious to hear yours. I want to hear your rankings. And until next time, guys, movie friends, keep it retro, and I will check you guys out in the next video. Take care.